1,539 political killings, 799 extrajudicial killings in the name of crossfire, filing of 141,633 fabricated and unfounded cases involving nearly 4.5 million BNP activists as accused. The challenge for BNP is now to re-establish a multi-party democracy. It has set an Indo-Pacific strategy in an effort to chart a new future for the country with deeper cooperation with democratic, progressive, and liberal nations in the region. Bangladesh at the heart of the Indo-Pacific. Historically, Bangladesh is a vital part of the Indo-Pacific. It is nestled at the mouth of Bay of Bengal. Its geographical proximity with two of the world's great powers, and Nepal, Bhutan, and Myanmar by land, has made the country geostrategically important in South and Southeast Asia. The country shares the world's fifth largest land border with India, and the nearest Chinese border is only 200 kilometers away from Bangladesh's Banglabandha land port. The country is also only 61 and 6 kilometers away from landlocked Nepal and Bhutan, respectively. Bangladesh straddles the Bay of Bengal at 260,000 kilometers long water region that is positioned between the Indian subcontinent and the Indo-Chinese peninsula. It is also the largest bay in the world and is over 1,500 kilometers away from the Strait of Malacca. The Bay of Bengal region is also home to a fourth of humanity. Thirteen million Bangladeshis live abroad, which is the fourth highest among the top 20 countries. Along with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, a lot of non-resident Bangladeshis live in the Indo-Pacific regions such as Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and the Maldives. However, compared to the geostrategic importance that is rightfully deserves, Bangladesh faces serious threats from climate change and has been plagued by man-made disasters such as environmental degradation, endemic corruption, misgovernance, a broken and partisan criminal justice system, and a total absence of strong democratic institutions. Our Indo-Pacific Action Plan. BNP has set broad foreign policy goals in recent years, aligning with democratic countries within and beyond the Indo-Pacific is one of the key goals. Below are our key strategies and set of actions for greater integration with the Indo-Pacific. Creating a democratic future at home. Drawing on the political ideology of Bangladeshi nationalism, BNP strives for a progressive, inclusive Bangladesh, which is a key Indo-Pacific nation and which flourishes on pluralism, richness of diverse faiths and ethnicities, perspectives and opinions. We believe it is imperative that we establish a democracy committed to freedom, transparency, pluralism, tolerance, justice, rule of law in Bangladesh, and respect for human rights, goals which have been outlined in our 31 State Reform Charter. We believe in the peaceful transition of power through free, fair, and credible elections. Our electoral efforts will be focused on building strong democratic institutions. Freedom of expression should be at the heart of our democratic accountability. We recognize that a free and independent press and a vibrant civil society is important to help fight a country's slide into authoritarianism and intolerance. We will combat disinformation and fake news by creating an environment where the media can operate independently and hold the government to account. We will promote media literacy, increase collaboration to address threats from information manipulation, both from home and abroad. The Digital Security Act, Cyber Security Act, to persecute and harass journalists and political dissidents will be abolished. We strongly believe that corruption is one of the biggest threats to any democracy, as we have seen from our own experience as a nation, that it is the biggest tool one-party states use to prop up despotic rulers. Fiscal transparency, we think, is a crucial, and it is important to work in conjunction with international and transnational bodies. Fiscal transparency is required also to ensure genuine assessment of development activities. We believe it is people's inalienable right to be informed and to make their own independent choices. The right to know should be as fundamental as right to food and shelter. We also wish to work with the US, Australia, Japan, India, ROK, and other countries to increase our country's ability to fight cyber threats from state and non-state actors. Supporting a democratic and secure future for the Indo-Pacific. We support efforts to build open societies in the Indo-Pacific where the governments can make independent political choices. A democratic, free, liberal, and progressive Indo-Pacific is of vital importance to Bangladesh. The Indo-Pacific should be a space where governments can maintain their sovereign choices in accordance with international laws and mandates from the people. Bangladesh will fully cooperate with countries in the region to ensure that the Indo-Pacific trade routes remain open and accessible. We will support rule-based approaches to the maritime domain, including in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, Indian Ocean, and the Bay of Bengal. As our geostrategic location demands, we want to help state and non-state actors across the region to help them establish democratic societies. This we want to achieve with active assistance from the US, Australia, Japan, India, ROK, and other countries of the region. It is crucial for us to strengthen our civil-military cooperation with the democratic nations in South and Southeast Asia, Japan, India, ROK, Australia, and the United States, the European Union, and the European Union. These nations together can form a deep security cooperation to keep the trade routes of Indo-Pacific open, secure, and safe. We support security cooperation that can form a temporary strike force to combat disaster management and pandemic response, natural, accidental, or deliberate biological threats, and the trafficking of weapon, drug, and people. We seek active support and collaboration from advanced Western economies to acquire sustainable technology for civil, economic, and military use. We believe long-term and deepening cooperation between Bangladesh armed forces and the Indo-Pacific partners is necessary for the capacity building and resilience training of Bangladesh's security forces. Bangladesh should also strengthen its cooperation with ASEAN nations to complement its Indo-Pacific strategy. BNP will take robust approach countering terrorism, separatism, and extremism, and ensure that the territory of Bangladesh can never be used for activities that are detrimental to any other neighbor state's security and interest. A dynamic Indo-Pacific strategy would be taken, ensuring a balance between short-term and longer-term challenges like counterterrorism. A liberal, open, free market future for Indo-Pacific. We believe strong common values are necessary to achieve a free, liberal, and open Indo-Pacific. Bangladesh should be an integral part of alliances, associations, regional groupings, and institutions which will foster open and free maritime trade in the region. These efforts should begin with our closest neighbors and partners. Bangladesh should promote building an economic framework within the Pacific nations that will help our economies and harness rapid technological transformation and adapt a climate transition and energy security. Recognizing the Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, IPEF, capacity to promote economic cooperation, trade and investment in the area, opening up new opportunities for sustainable growth and regional integration. Bangladesh should actively pursue a key role in the forum. We should develop new approaches to trade that meet high labor and environmental standards. We want to work with the US and our Indo-Pacific partners to make sure that the region's supply chains become secure, diverse, open, and consistent. We should work with the Indo-Pacific nations to advance common approaches to frontier technologies, value-aligned technology standards, the internet, and secure cyberspace. We should facilitate the movement of scientists and researchers and open access to scientific data for highly advanced or innovative collaboration. The COVID-19 pandemic has made clear the need for a rapid recovery that promotes broad-based economic growth and requires investments to encourage innovation, strengthen economic competitiveness, produce good-paying jobs, rebuild supply chains, and expand economic opportunities. We should promote resilient and secure global telecommunications, focusing on 5G vendor diversification and open radio access network, ORAN, technology. We should seek a telecommunications supply market that is well postured to allow for new and trustworthy entrants. We fully support the recapitalization of the World Bank and IMF to scale up vital lending to poor and middle-income countries, including those in the Indo-Pacific, in their efforts to bring prosperity, secure a greener and climate-resilient future, and counter predatory lending. We intend to ensure that every financial support and development project is implemented with transparency and accountability as per global best practices. A green, climate resilient Bangladesh and the Indo-Pacific. Our shared responses to the climate crisis are both a political imperative and an economic opportunity in the Indo-Pacific, which is home to 70% of the world's natural disasters. Bangladesh should work with Indo-Pacific partners to develop climate targets, strategies, plans, policies consistent with limiting the global temperature increase and transitions to a net zero future. Bangladesh should invest in clean energy technology and foster climate-aligned infrastructure investment. It should also focus on reducing vulnerability to the impacts of climate change and environmental degradation and building critical infrastructure resilience and addressing energy security. We should safeguard the health and sustainable use of region's vast oceans, including legal use of resources, enhanced research cooperation, and promotion of beneficial commerce and transportation. We should build close cooperation with the countries in the Himalayas in an effort to share real-time data on melting glaciers and the erratic patterns of rains which in recent years have triggered floods and natural disasters in lower riparian Bangladesh. Bangladesh will work closely with Indo-Pacific partners to strengthen public health systems to withstand future shocks from pandemics, invest in global health security, and expand regional platforms to prevent, detect, and respond to health emergencies. We should work with the World Health Organization and other multilateral organizations to strengthen preparedness and response. A dignified and sustainable solution to Rohingya crisis. We will increase engagement with the international community, both at a bilateral and multilateral level, to find a just, acceptable, and dignified solution to the Rohingya crisis. The UN should supervise voluntary, secured, and dignified repatriation of the Rohingya to comply fully with UN treaties and protocols on returning refugees. We recognize the crimes against the Rohingya as genocide and war crime, and as genocide and war crimes, as termed by the UN Independent Fact-Finding Mission on Myanmar. We will engage with other nations to expedite Rohingya genocide case against the Myanmar military junta. We will build up support to help recognize the persecution of Rohingyas as an Indo-Pacific and global problem. Tens of thousands of Rohingyas have undertaken dangerous voyages to Southeast Asian countries in search of protection and livelihood since 2008. Many have since become victims of human trafficking and ended up dead from starvation. Enhanced regional cooperation among ASEAN nations is essential to improve the protection of Rohingya both in Myanmar, refugee camps abroad, and at the sea. We will build support for targeted sanctions against the Myanmar regime and its military, focusing on their concrete economic interests. We will also support credible accountability efforts to ensure justice for the victims and prevent the reoccurrence of violence. We welcome and fully support the Burma Act recently enacted by the United States, which supports democratic activists and resistance forces fighting for democracy in Myanmar. We emphasize the need for the Act to address the repatriation issue of Rohingya refugees cooperating closely with our key partners like the US, UK, Japan, Canada, Australia, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the OIC, the EU, the UN, and other key strategic partners in the neighborhood. We will ensure that the views and aspirations of Rohingya themselves are taken into account when devising repatriation plans. The Indo-Pacific strategy taken by the democratic world expected to reshape the global security and economic architecture will ensure a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Our strategic location at the apex of the Bay of Bengal positions Bangladesh as a hub for connectivity between Western and Eastern hemispheres, as well as Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean regions. We would embrace an Indo-Pacific strategy for a free, open, prosperous, liberal, democratic, secure Indo-Pacific region in an effort to ensure security cooperation, rule-based order, harmony, safe maritime navigation, sustainable development, free trade, and resilience to withstand climate, health, pandemic, and transnational threats. Thank you. আমি একটু জাস্ট প্রেসের জন্য বাংলাতে একটু ওরা দুই চারটা কথা শুনতে চাই তো একটু জাস্ট 2 মিনিটের মধ্যে আমি শেষ করছি গত 17 বছরে বাংলাদেশ জাতীয়তাবাদী দল বিএনপি কর্তৃত্ববাদী সরকারের অবর্ণনীয় মানবাধিকার লঙ্ঘন ও অন্যায়ের শিকার হয়েছে এই সময়টা ছিল বিএনপির জন্য গণতান্ত্রিক নীতিতে অবিচল থাকার প্রতি ধৈর্য প্রদর্শনের চরম পরাকাষ্ঠা স্বরূপ প্রধান বিরোধী দল হিসেবে বিএনপি মনে করে জনগণের যে ক্ষমতা অন্যায়ভাবে তাদের কাছ থেকে কেড়ে নেওয়া হয়েছে সেটা পুনরায় জনগণের কাছে ফিরিয়ে দেওয়া তাদের রাজনৈতিক এবং নৈতিক দায়িত্ব গণতন্ত্র গণতান্ত্রিক মূল্যবোধগুলোর যথাযথ সংরক্ষণেই ইন্দো প্যাসিফিক স্ট্র্যাটেজির ভিত্তি পাকা করবে বলে বিএনপি বিশ্বাস করে আমাদের দল জাতীয় স্বার্থ সমুন্নত রেখে একটি নিরাপদ ও স্থিতিশীল ইন্দো প্যাসিফিক অঞ্চল নিশ্চিত করতে নিবেদিত গণতান্ত্রিক বিশ্বগৃহীত ইন্দো প্যাসিফিক কৌশল বৈশ্বিক একটি অবাধ উন্মুক্ত অন্তর্ভুক্তিমূলক ইন্দো প্যাসিফিকের লক্ষ্যে নিরাপত্তা ও অর্থনৈতিক স্থাপত্যকে নূতন করে ঢেলে সাজাবে বলে আমরা বিশ্বাস করি সংযোগের কেন্দ্রস্থল হিসেবে বঙ্গোপসাগরের শীর্ষে বাংলাদেশের অবস্থান পশ্চিম ও পূর্ব গোলার্ধের পাশাপাশি ভারত মহাসাগরে অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ নিরাপত্তা সহযোগিতা নিয়মতান্ত্রিক ব্যবস্থা সম্প্রীতি নিরাপদ নৌ চলাচল টেকসই অর্থনীতি মুক্ত বাণিজ্য জলবায়ু স্বাস্থ্য মহামারীর মতো হুমকিসমূহের মোকাবেলার পাশাপাশি একটি অবাধ মুক্ত উদার গণতান্ত্রিক ও নিরাপদ ইন্দো প্যাসিফিক অঞ্চলের জন্য আমরা স্বতঃস্ফূর্তভাবে ইন্দো প্যাসিফিক কৌশল গ্রহণ করেছি ধন্যবাদ
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, for the presentation of the keynote paper. At the moment, I would request our discussants to discuss on this Indo-Pacific strategy. I would request first Ambassador Shirajul Islam to say a few words or his presentation on this subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon or good evening. Is it? I don't know what the weather is outside. I can't see anything outside. Thank you very much for inviting me today to this very, very important seminar. And it is being held at a very critical time for 170 million people of Bangladesh, irrespective of their political parties. Because we are going through a transition, a phase in our history which is, if one can draw a historical parallel, is the same sort of uncertainty we faced when in 1971, on the 1st of March, our democratic rights were taken away from us by the Pakistan's military regime, and we are thrust into a deep uncertainty, which ultimately led to our war of liberation, which we fought for 9 months, and one of the most glorious war of liberation in the last century. And that's how Bangladesh became independent. But in 1971, on the 1st of March, when we jumped into the movement for restoring the rights of the and people of East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, we were fighting only for our political rights. Our political right to change the government through a free and fair election was taken away by Pakistan's military regime for no reason at all, no reason whatsoever. But today we are facing almost the same thing politically, but in addition to that, as you have seen in the paper presented by Mr. Amir Khoshu, there are certain figures that have been given in, I think it's in the opening part, where in the para, first, second, third, fourth, he mentions the human rights deficit that we did not face in 1971. There have been in the last 15 years or 14 years, there have been 1539 political killings, 799 extrajudicial killings, and this, that, and the other. This is, I can't call it a genocide, but it's definitely a crime against humanity. But here it is, in 1971, when we jumped for that movement for our political rights. Today, in the last 15 years, we are facing a much deeper, a much more existential threat that has touched other than the people in the regime, other than the outside the regime, which is about 70% of the people of Bangladesh. It has taken away our political, economic, social, and whatever rights you can think about, they have taken it away from us. Here is where, the paper that was presented at Mr. Amir Khoshu, he did not say something to the audience here, especially to the diplomats who have come. In the last 15 years, there has been no political party in South Asia. I'm talking about the time we were a colony of the British, subsequently as part of Pakistan, and then in the last 52 years, no political, minus the 15 years, last 15 years, no political party in South Asia's history, no political party has faced a culmination of what the BNP has faced in the last 15 years. This regime has tried almost everything to take away, other than their own, every other right for every other political party that did not go tally with their ideas of one party state. And in this 15 years, I mean, the oppression and repression that has been thrust upon the BNP has been mind-boggling. The regime has tried everything you can conceive about to break the BNP, to break its backbone, but today, 15 years after they started in 2009, the BNP today is as united, perhaps much more united, for fighting for what? They are fighting for democracy, human rights, and electoral rights of the people of Bangladesh, the same very rights for which millions of people laid down their lives in 1971. But 52 years hence, we are still looking for those rights, and those rights have been taken away from us, believe it or not, by a regime that is supposed to have led us in 1971 for the same very rights. But there is an irony. Today, these rights are being supported, not by the regime who said they led it for this right, for democracy, human rights, and electoral rights. The party is taking away it from us, and the forces that are supporting us are the forces, our friends, especially our friends from the western part of the world, led by the United States of America. The American initiative in Bangladesh, I think it's not been very well explained the Americans are in Bangladesh not because of the BNP or because of the Awami League. The Americans are pursuing a global agenda. That global agenda is, since Donald Trump left American governance in 2021, the Americans, those 4 years of Donald Trump, had regressed a lot democratically in the aspects of human rights and the aspect of electoral rights. America has come with those rights. not only in this part of the world, but globally. And part of the benefit we are getting, the people of Bangladesh are getting. This is the encouragement we are getting. This is the encouragement that the freedom-loving people of Bangladesh are getting to fight for the same rights for which millions of people had laid down their lives in 1971. That's why I'd like to congratulate the BNP and its leadership. They have remained united. I mean, again, to repeat what I've said at the beginning, no party in South Asia have faced this much of oppression, this much of repression, and what not have they not tried on the BNP to break it. But here we are on the cusp of regaining our democratic electoral and voting rights. And here is BNP leading the movement. And on the cusp of winning, here is where we need not only support of the people of Bangladesh, we need the support of people across and outside. And here is where the Indo-Pacific strategy of the United States of America, of the Biden administration, is very, very important, but not very well explained to the people of Bangladesh. But I congratulate BNP and especially the presenter, Mr. Amir Khosrow Chaudhry. He has made an excellent job of explaining what the American Indo-Pacific strategy is, and then relating it to what we are trying, what the BNP is trying, what the people outside the Amir regime is trying, regain the same rights for which we fought the War of Liberation in 1971. And here we are, irony, but not explaining in the Bangladesh press, is the Americans are not only supporting it, they are supporting it because we in Bangladesh, the people would like to fight for it. People are fighting, but others would like to fight for it because of the regime we are under. This regime is, those who are facing the regime at the grassroots, they know this regime is no better, no worse than the Pakistani regime of 1971. So fighting this regime is a matter of life and death. So today, Bangladesh and the people of Bangladesh outside the regime, which is trying to perpetuate, they have said openly, I mean, they are not doing anything in hide and seek. They have said they want to remain here as long as they want to. They don't give a damn to the Constitution. They don't give a damn to democracy. They don't give a damn to human rights. And of course, electoral rights, they just don't believe in electoral rights. They believe in one sort of electoral rights where they want an election in which they can win. It's not a matter of just winning an election. It's not that you win 151 seats and form the government. They want to win all the 300 seats. And I'm sure all of you across the table know, you have read and you have analyzed, there is a constitutional, thing that the Army League will always tell you. We are such a lover of the Constitution. I mean, they really gave so much respect to the Constitution, more so than the Holy Quran, more so than the religious book. But why do they do it? Because when they got power in 2009, they unilaterally, in a Mediterranean way, violating the judiciary, violating the separation of power, violating the sanctity of the Constitution, they brought an amendment in the Constitution called the 15th Amendment. Under this 15th Amendment, what in the last 3 elections they have done? Because it's an election that will be held under the present Prime Minister. It's an election will be held under the present Election Commission. It's an election that will be held under the present civil bureaucracy. This is an election that will be held under the law enforcement agency. So all of us across the table, we, the Bangladeshis, and our foreign friends know. I mean, even the mythical gods, if they come down from heaven, take up the leadership of BNP from my friend Mirza Alamgir and lead the BNP against the Army League under the 15th Amendment. The mythical god, maybe it's Zeus or whoever he may be, will not be able to win even one seat. That is where we are. We are talking about Constitution knowing fully well. This Constitution, they have written it, they have changed it, they have violated every norm you can think about. And this is an election under which there is no way. So when the Army Leaguers talk about an election under the Constitution, I mean, it is something absurd. And I feel astounded because we do not have a free press. We can't write, we can't express. That is why, we are now at the cusp of having another election. Is it not enough? Have we not seen 2014 election? Have we not seen 2018 election? Then why is it that our friends in the others, All of us are not BNP. There are a lot of people outside the BNP. Why is it when the Awami Leaguers talk about election of the Constitution, why can they show the 2014 election? In 2014, under this 15th Amendment, they had 154 of the 300 seats elected before election itself was held. 2018, it was a midnight election. So, I've been asked to cut my, discussion short. But again, congratulations to the BNP at a very timely moment in our history. They have brought in front of us the last 15 years. If you are not with the ruling regime, you know what life is for the people of Bangladesh, more or less the same that the people faced after 25th March of 1971. So here we are, and here is BNP leading us, and we have another election. And thanks again to those powers who have come to help us at such a critical time. Because if we are not able to hold the next election, where people will be able to vote and express the right, constitutional right to elect their government of choice, this country will not exist. This country will definitely wither away. So here we are, and here are foreign friends, especially to you. When the Awami League talks about constitution, election of the constitution, you go and see the 15th Amendment. I mean, if there is a non-issue in a constitution, is the 15th Amendment. Having said this again, to the BNP for leading Bangladesh at critical time, you have given us hope. The hope for which people sacrificed life in 71. That hope is being revived, and I'm pretty certain, by sense of logic, sense of reason, sense of legality, sense of constitutionality, this regime cannot exist another term. So thank you again, BNP. Thank you, BNP, for leading Bangladesh, and I'm sure you lead us out of this darkness.
Thank you, Ambassador Shiraj, for your speech. I would now request Professor Shahidul Zaman to deliver his speech.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Secretary General, distinguished guests on the podium, very honored audience sitting here. It's a little claustrophobic over here, and I'm not feeling too well. But let me get straight into the business of how I can be useful to you in offering you some new information, or what I feel as my piece of information. First of all, if you look at the developments that have taken place since we have been here, maybe just about a few months ago, talking about Indo-Pacific strategy. Right now, the United States has a very negative image to the government in power right here. The visits by American officials have not produced any credible results. This government is going ahead with its plans for re-election. What we can do is we can urge upon the United States, I think it's the most powerful, important outside actor, to press with greater remedies, greater actions that can compel the government to resign and hand in power to an interim or a caretaker government, so that we can work towards humanizing the Constitution and making the idea of elections more credible. To me, I think that it's very important that we have proper steps taken through reviving the political institutions to a normal shape. The political institutions, as you know, I don't have to repeat, have been absolutely perverted, absolutely distorted. We need a process by which those who have thrown the political institutions to this state, they be tried. I have enough evidence to suggest, and many of us know, that the International Criminal Court is interested to look into the subject of crimes in Bangladesh. All of the sufferings imposed upon the BNP and others. So many thousands and thousands of innocent people are, in the jail. And I've been told today that the courts are working even in the evening to put political prisoners into the jails. Now, going into my subject of what I was wanting to say, the way I look at it is that the Bay of Bengal has gained great significance and importance. The keynote speaker had mentioned this. I think it's very important that the BNP or the future government that will emerge in Bangladesh to come with a solid commitment to the United States that Bangladesh should emerge clearly in specific terms as a security ally of the United States. It's very important for us to look at it this way because the atmosphere in the Bay of Bengal is becoming increasingly dangerous for us. We can see a situation where the Bay of Bengal has just become a gateway to the Straits. It has earned great strategic significance because this is the outlet for China, other than the role that the Chinese Navy has in the Pacific to protect Taiwan, to invade Taiwan, and to fulfill its aims at the Straits of Malacca. It will require the Bay of Bengal as a second outlet. This is where the Americans are deeply concerned. They have never been concerned so much in the past years. I had this feeling when I was attending about 2 weeks ago a 3-day seminar on the Center for Governance Studies with the American ambassador, and Western ambassadors were also present. The way the US ambassador pointed out to us when I posed him a question that how the United States like to see Bangladesh as an ally, as a defense ally, a bilateral alliance with the United States. The American ambassador did not have a direct reply. All he said was that it is up to you. You decide whether you want to be with the East or you decide you want to be with the West. Now, there are certain very vital areas of our survival that we very often neglect in security studies. The realities of geopolitics are such that they simply cannot be wished away by ideology. How many of us are aware that Myanmar is involved in a secret mission to produce, become a nuclear power, for example? Over the last 5 years, the Myanmar military, this outlaw government, this illegal terrorist government that we know as the Tatmadaw, has had links with North Korea and China. And a Myanmar major was caught red-handed in the helipads, and he confessed to our intelligence materials that Myanmar has underground setups where they are working towards nuclearization. Now, in a matter of 3 or 4 years, we don't foresee our security, but Myanmar might just plan up with the Chinese. Now, when we consider Myanmar and China as allies, you have to remember that China has very often acted in this region in total violation of what it has committed. I need not go to details, but we have seen the maps released on St. Martin and in this part of the bay. There are reports that the Bay of Bengal, in the Bangladesh side, there is a huge deposit of gas. I have read in a source material, I don't know if it's true, it said that there are about 200 million cubic feet worth of gas lying, which is one of the largest in the Asia-Pacific region. And this needs to be explored. Now, when we look at China or Myanmar, these are the countries that would like to penetrate into our interest in the Bay of Bengal. We have seen in the past when the maritime boundaries were written, who was the country that came to our side in a full-fledged manner, in a consistent manner? It was the United States, it was Britain, and the European countries which provided us with the documents that really helped us acquire those territorial seas. Even then, we didn't get what we deserved. If you look at the maritime boundary on the Myanmar side, it turns. Now, there is a person from the Army League, the fisheries committee chairman. He showed me maps the other day where there can be claims made by Bangladesh that that line, maritime boundary line, should have been straight rather than curved, so that so much of the valuable maritime region has been taken away by Myanmar. The Chinese are very interested in penetrating into the Myanmar region, Bangladesh territorial waters and acquiring the resources that we have. Now, from this point of view, I think the United States should expect that Bangladesh should commit itself to a serious understanding with the United States. Now, as it was said by the keynote speaker, that we should support the democratization process in Myanmar. This is very important. If the BNP supports the democratization in Myanmar, it would mean that we support the Burma Act. The Congress, the American Congress, passed unanimously. It was a bipartisan decision. Remember, at a time when the American Congress does not even have a speaker, there is so much of skirmish going on. Eventually, of course, they will have a speaker soon. But the fact remains that the US Congress will be approached by the White House for funding 3 areas that I have come across in American Pentagon records. Those 3 areas are: number 1, the Ukraine, billions of dollars that will go for the Ukraine war effort. Number 2 is the Middle East in support of Israel. Number 3 is the Asia-Pacific region, that is the Indo-Pacific region. There is a very serious, quiet realization that something has to be done about Myanmar. And if something concrete is done, it would mean that the Myanmar military government has to be removed. As you know, and it was mentioned last time when I addressed this audience, I had said that there has been continuous requests by the people of Myanmar to the American Congress that there be a military support by the United States to get rid of the Tatmadaw and democratization process can emerge in Myanmar. If that has to happen, the United States has to play a role, and it wants to play a role. The Congress has asked the United States government to play a role. When I raised the issue to the American ambassador the other day, that why doesn't he ever talk about the Burma Act, he never replied to the question. They keep it quiet, but repeatedly the Americans keep on insisting that you make up your mind. They want Bangladesh to make up its mind. Now, we realize how important the United States is for the removal of this terrorist government. It's not a government, it's a regime, it's a terrorist regime which has made the whole nation hostage. And it is a family rule. If you look at the Indo-Pacific strategy, nothing concrete, it's a stagnant position. The other day I saw on the television in England, the foreign secretary was asked, how do you wish to contribute towards the effort for the democratization of Burma? He never had an answer. How do you wish to take care, to make sure that the Rohingya go back to Myanmar? He didn't have a concrete answer. He was in fact apologetic. He said that neither the Myanmar government has kept its word, nor the Chinese government has done really anything concrete. So it's a clear admission of failure. When we know that the Rohingya crisis cannot be resolved by China, and it really, there is no reason to have any faith on China. It will go through theatrics, it will go through exhibitionist postures to try to persuade us that it's trying hard. But ultimately, it's with the United States that the entire Rohingya problem rests. Americans have consistently been the largest donor to help support the Rohingya camps. It has helped Bangladesh in its hour of need with the largest supply of vaccines. Look what the Indians did, look what the Chinese did. We never had any concrete results. What I'm trying to tell you is that in the coming days, it's very important that we recognize that we have to have a very concrete posture in our foreign policy, the BNP foreign policy, where the United States has to be treated as an ally. Now, as for our security in the Bay of Bengal, the United States has no plans to set up base or anything, but the Americans are absolutely serious. This is the policy that has emerged over the last several years, that they would never want China to have an access to the Bay of Bengal, to the Straits of Malacca. And then in the next 5 years, on the question of using force in Taiwan, with the Chinese plan. Now, that is why the Bay of Bengal will become the second outlet for the Chinese. They have not been able to build any defense installations as yet. If someone suggests that China has already taken over the control of the Bay of Bengal, it's totally wrong. The Indians do not want the Chinese to dominate the Bay of Bengal, but the Indians also don't want Americans to be present in the Bay of Bengal. Consequently, the Indians make us a hostage in the Bay of Bengal. We are totally at their mercy. We have radar installations being deployed on the coastal line, and the Indians have acquired the right to monitor the movement of maritime vessels in the region. Many of you are aware that the Indians do not even allow foreign vessels to move into the Indian economic zone. The Indian economic zone covers the entire rest of the southern Bay of Bengal and parts of the Indian Ocean. Now, the Americans have been denied entry into the Indian economic zone. With this excuse, the Americans have rejected the Indian position. And the United States has said that they will carry on their movement across the sea. Now, if the Indians go on insisting that you require permission for your ships to move across the Bay of Bengal, the southern Bay of Bengal, because that's Indian economic zone, it means that we are sea-locked. The Indians want us to be sea-locked. The Indians do not want the Chinese to have anything to do as far as Bangladesh's security concerns are concerned. The only power that can really help us in having our freedom of mobility in the Bay of Bengal, the only power that can help us in the future consistently to protect our sovereignty and security as a state in the Bay of Bengal is the United States. Therefore, it's very important that we don't misunderstand the United States because of its role in the Middle East. Every country has its own region where it exercises its own rights. Right here, it's our necessity that we see in the next coming months, Americans play a more effective role to pressurize this government to resign. And that can only happen if the BNP commits itself towards a clear-cut view that we shall allow the United States to take part in protecting our resources in the Bay of Bengal. If it's true that we have such huge resources, no other country can contribute. The proof lies in the fact that look at Qatar, look at the Middle Eastern oil-rich countries, look at the entire Pacific region. Most of these countries, almost 90% of these countries, enjoy American security umbrella over the last 70 years. If that was not so, then China would have taken away much of the territory, the islands that are lying there. Similarly, for our security in the Bay of Bengal, we need a crucial ally. And that ally is no other country than the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shahiduzaman, for your important deliberation. Of course, we are in Bangladesh at home, is our yearning for and looking for the democratic, free, liberal, and progressive Bangladesh, where democracy prevails, and a proper, open Indo-Pacific, I believe, is the way, and that's how our speakers are elaborating today. At the moment, we have another discussant with us. I would request Professor Dilara Chaudhry to deliver her speech on the Indo-Pacific. Thank you.
I begin my very short speech by thanking BNP Secretary General, Mr. Krishna Malubi, especially Mr. Amit Kushma Chaudhry for inviting me, and to say a few words about the seminar, the topic of the seminar. Our city reached a very young diplomat from UK. She's a newcomer. She has been here in Bangladesh only for the last 4 months. And she asked me a question: do the people of Bangladesh like democracy? Are they democratic minded? Do they want democracy? This was the question. She's a newcomer. And of course, you know what my answer was. As Ambassador Shirajul Islam stated in his speech, the liberation war of Bangladesh was fought in the name of democracy. But democracy has remained elusive for us, even today. Now, for our struggle for democracy, I would, as a political scientist and observer of Bangladesh politics, I would give full credit to BNP. First of all, the founder of BNP, Ziaur Rahman, as Mr. Amir Mahmood said in his paper, Ziaur Rahman brought back multi-party democracy after one-party state was declared by Army in 1935. Subsequently, throughout the history, BNP made a number of reconsidered and consensus steps in restoring democratic process in the country. And I will just cite one example, that when the present party in power was demanding caretaker government during BNP's first term, 91 to 96, and had also resigned from the parliament, creating a deadlock. Begum Khalida Zia, then Prime Minister, held an election in 1996, which was not participated by Awami League, boycotted, for which many Awami Leaguers blamed the BNP that it was a voter-based election. But that election was held only for the reason to have a constitutional process going and bringing back the caretaker government, the regime of the party, the ruling party, which won the election of April 1996, resigned, dissolved the parliament, and called for a fresh election under a caretaker government in which the Awami League came to power. And I can cite other examples, but because of shortness of time, I could not. Last 15 years, BNP has actually faced so much depression, I need not really elaborate on this, that it is really a surprise even to me that the party has withstood and stayed together as a party fighting for democracy. And credit must go to them. And when we say that BNP is leading the democratic movement in the country, we should always remember that this is a movement of not BNP, but it is a movement for the majority people of Bangladesh. We know that in Bangladesh we have no democratic rights, first of all the voting rights and other rights. Having said that, I would now conclude by saying that a democratic government, a democratic Bangladesh, is the answer for the survival of Bangladesh as well as for the prosperity of Bangladesh. The government, through a free, fair and participatory election, hopefully will be taking place because of the tremendous pressure given by outside powers, especially United States. And we must thank the United States for coming forward and helping people of Bangladesh in their rights to restore their rights to vote and other rights as well as democracy. Once the transition takes place, actually, the values the people of Bangladesh hold are similar or synonymous to the vision of the Indo-Pacific strategy, which has been forwarded by President Biden after his coming to power, in which he said that the objective of this Indo-Pacific strategy is to strengthen the democratic institutions, with which I am sure everybody in this room will agree. The democratic institutions are almost destroyed, they are disarrayed, they must be rebuilt. So we will need help from a power like the United States in rebuilding our institutions. We need the institution for the good governance and human rights. Again, I am sure we all will agree that with this vision, we totally agree, and we need help from countries like the United States and Western powers, other democratic nations, for realizing this particular vision we have for Bangladesh. They foster sustainable, inclusive, and transparent economic good growth, improve resilience to to health and climate threat. These are the visions of strategy of the United States with which we actually identify a democratic government or a democratic country like Bangladesh after the transition from the authoritarian government into a democratic government can really look forward and identify and work with the Indo-Pacific countries or the partners who have the same vision. We have to remember that you can always forge friendship. You can always live together in coherence. You can always live together in peace if you have the same values or the shared values. Here we find that in the vision of the Indo-strategy of the US, the values are the ones which the people of Bangladesh also hold very dear to their heart. Having said that, I will stop here. Thank you. And I again thank BNP for bringing us to this level. And I thank the US and US power who are helping us in this transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilara Chaudhary, for your important input, an important speech. The next generation and the present generation wants a Bangladesh and wants a world. They want to live in a world and live in a Bangladesh where democracy, human rights, and right to vote prevails. And BNP's Indo-Pacific vision shows the way, we believe. Right now, we're going to close the discussion of our discussants, and we're going to open the floor for any quick comments and any views on this issue. As always, you can make a remark from there. The uni bolbe aage. General Ibrahim. Please go ahead.
প্লিজ আপনি সময়টার দিকে একটু লক্ষ্য রাখবেন আমাদের সময় খুব কম
আমি সব সময় খেয়াল রেখেছি তারপর আপনাদের আমার ছোট্ট প্রশ্ন ইংলিশ is you can take a horse to the water but you can't make it drink. So the whole world may want Bangladesh to be a democratic country, but if half of the horse, all Bangladesh, doesn't want to drink the water called democracy, we'll be in difficulty. So we have to make sure somehow to convince the democracy, the half of the horse which is paralyzed, which cannot think, which cannot see, which cannot look. So what do we do? Our thanks to everybody for all the efforts, but we have to think a little bit more. We are having crucial times coming for next 3 to 4 weeks. Thank you. Sir, I have been in time to submit the proposal from again.
Thank you, General Ibrahim, the great freedom fighter, for your important speech. Yeah. We'll request Dr. Mahbubullah to give his input.
For giving me a chance to vent my feelings. I have very small things to tell you. The relation between countries is not a matter of just signing agreements and treaties. The relation between countries or among countries is a matter of understanding, mutual appreciation. And where a mutual appreciation and mutual understanding gets missing, there you cannot have very friendly, productive, and dependable relationship among countries. So when we talk about such international arrangements, we should be very clear that our mind, our heart responds to these ideas. This is number one. And again, I like to tell something about our experience during Pakistan. Pakistan had several military agreements with the United States of America, like being part American military, CENTUR and SEAL. and also a little bit unjust. And these treaties were not very popular among the masses of Pakistan. But even then, the Pakistan government thought that the security of Pakistan can best be protected with some kind of security arrangement with the United States. And that's how we then Pakistani rulers and administrators justified having agreement with the United States. But during Ayub Khan's regime, who was a field marshal and a military ruler, we saw that gradually these agreements like Central and Seattle, they are losing their strength because Pakistan decided that they will not be very active in those arrangements. Ultimately, we saw that Pakistan also developed relations with socialist countries like China and the United USSR, and especially China. Then the Chinese said that we don't see Pakistan being in the Central or Seattle as very harmful because already these agreements have been made ineffective. So, in the recent context, what we should think is that whenever you think over things like Pacific, what is that? Indo-Pacific. I think the most important thing is to read the minds of the participants. That's very important. You see, the intentions or the agenda or the secret agenda, whatever it might be, should not be something which is against the wishes of the people of a particular country. And I hope that we will make our policy towards Indo-Pacific on the basis of understanding, not really just on the basis of some papers or agreements. This is number one. Number two, we should not forget that the contemporary world is no more a unipolar world. The unipolar world was developed after 1991 with the collapse of Soviet Union. But now again, there is a situation we see that the world has become multipolar, and we have to deal with other big powers, our other forces. That's why we should also think about how we should deal with superpowers, and that will ensure our freedom, independence, and sovereignty. For a party like Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the issue of sovereignty is the most important one, and that's what President Jia visualized his position. Visualized the position for Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite one of our young members of our young generation, Mr. Thabit Awal.
Thank you. All special guests, Chief of today's meeting, and all excellencies, good evening. As we all know, it's not a secret, it's open data that a big part of the population of the world actually lives in the Indo-Pacific region, which also means that the largest part of the youth demographic lives in the Indo-Pacific region. So it's extremely important that this region not only remains stable, peaceful, open, but also progressive. But unfortunately, many parts of this region, there's a big demographic which lives in, not only in this region, but around the world we see more and more young people are getting into refugee camps because of political conflicts all around the world. But that is something we want to avoid in this part of the world. That's where BNP, I feel, has taken a very concrete role in its future leadership to ensure that not only the youth of Bangladesh, but the youth around the world are more engaged in politics, engaged in nation building, and engaged in creating a prosperous Indo-Pacific region. So in that regards, I feel that what are the young people more interested in? climate change, that is something the BNP is already taking leadership in. More progressive research-based education, that is also something BNP has taken leadership in terms of its 31-point charter. And creating a healthy population. Because more and more of us are spending way too much money and time in being physically unhealthy, whether it be due to our food habits or the environmental effects or pollution. But in order to tackle, especially pollution, Indo-Pacific is a region where the youth must come together. And I really thank the BNP leadership for showing us that the future role is going to be prosperous and is going to be progressive and inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, that's very good. I would like to invite another great here, political leader, Mr. Manna. Few words, please.
Thank you very much. I'm just very interested to speak of this because Indo-Pacific strategy is strategic, politically, geographically, geopolitically. I thank Mr. Abid Khosrow Mahmood Chaudhary for presenting this nice paper. This is very well judged, the words are very well chosen, and it's always beat the lives. That is what really charmed me. Because politics, when we talk about international politics, international relations, it really doesn't traverse on the same line all the time, not for a long time. So what we have to say, something today, a big party like BNP should visualize the failures in maybe 1, 2 more decades. And taking into consideration all these, I think this was a very, very good caption for this topic, a democratic future for Bangladesh and the Indo-Pacific strategy. It matches the Americans, matches Bangladesh, matches now the whole world. Because I want to say here that there is a tendency, particularly from the government side, they now most of the time cite the examples of Soviet Union and Russia, the China and other countries which are going autocratic. To say, there are two trends in the country, the whole world. One is democratic and autocratic, and gradually the forces of democracy is waning. They are not winning, gradually diminishing. They are going to say this, particularly then you cover long area, you focus on democracy, focus on development, focus on local and international, all topics. That's really very good, very matured, and I thank BNP for presenting such a nice paper at this critical juncture of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madhurana. I would like to request Mr. Nuru, our young generation leader, to take the word.
Thank you, Mr. President and all of the guests. I think I agree with the documents, and not only me, also my party, Vikar Parishad, is agree with this document which was presented by BNP and Manafai mentioned, and also our Dhaka University ex-professor Mr. Shahidul Jaman, he also mentioned the umbrella security in the Middle East and the problem of the Bay of Bengal, and as a, like, it is a small country but with a vast population. So for better future, what mentioned Mr. Tabitawa, the youth, and the title of this paper, Democratic Future. All of you know, 15 years we are under a authoritarian government, not a government, we can call it as a regime. So we are struggling to restore our democratic rights, voting rights, human rights. So in this context, I think IPS can be a good strategic partner for us, not the authoritarian country. So we want in the coming next year, next election coming ahead. So we want all the international development partners of Bangladesh, especially IPS country, help Bangladesh people to restore democracy and the democratic process, to protect and uphold human rights and universal human rights, universal human declaration. You know what mentioned in the fourth para of this, first page, fourth para of this paper. 799 extrajudicial killings in the name of crossfire. 1,204 enforced disappearance, and most of the people are involved with opposition politics. Even cases are for about 50 marks of BNP. Most of the BNP are opposition activists, and all of you know here all the people are not BNP, but most of the people support BNP's movement, and we are with BNP. Thank you, BNP, for presenting this.
Thank you, Mr. Nurul. I request Mr. Saiful Haq of Workers' Party to speak few words. Please look time.
Respected Chairperson, this very important seminar, a democratic future for Bangladesh and the Indo-Pacific strategy. Distinguished diplomats, gentlemen, I would like to congratulate BNP for this very important seminar, through which they have extended, they have expressed their very comprehensive outlook, their very comprehensive political positions on various aspects. Particularly, I would like to thank BNP leader Hamid Khosrow Mahmood Chaudhary, very detailed, particular and very comprehensive statement regarding all these issues. Actually, what do we want? We wanted graceful, democratic relationship among the countries of Indo-Pacific region on the basis of our mutual interest, our respect, and recognition of our mutual issues. But at present, actually, all these issues can properly address only a democratic, popularly elected pro-people government. They can bargain, they can talk, they can ensure the national interest by keeping our sovereignty, by keeping our all these people's concern. But at present, so we are fighting a very authoritarian, the fascist regime, and particularly which our primarily our democratic rights, voting rights is still completely ignored. So for Bangladesh, in regards to Asia-Pacific strategy, Bangladesh definitely have some very comparative advantages. But only a popular, democratically elected government can pave the way how best we can serve our nation, how best we can ensure our national interest. And so, only I would like to just deliver only 2 sentences in Bangla. One thing is that আমরা যে ইন্দো প্যাসিফিকের যেটা আলোচনাটার মধ্যে আমরা আছি, প্রথমত সমগ্র বিষয়টা একটা জনগণের প্রত্যক্ষ ভোটে, জনগণের সমর্থনে যদি কোনো সরকার, তারাই কেবল আসে জাতীয় স্বার্থ, জাতীয় সার্বভৌমত্ব এবং জাতীয় সম্পদকে নিশ্চয়তা বিধান করে জনগণের পক্ষে ইন্দো প্যাসিফিক অঞ্চলে বাংলাদেশের রোলটা কি হবে, যেখানে আমরা জানি যে আমাদের একটা জিও পলিটিক্যাল অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ অবস্থানে বাংলাদেশ আছে, যেটাকে আমি বলেছি বাংলাদেশের অনেক এই নির্দিষ্ট অবস্থানের জন্য একটা কম্পারেটিভ অ্যাডভান্টেজ বাংলাদেশের আছে। এটা কেবলমাত্র একটা ইলেক্টেড গভর্নমেন্টের পক্ষে যার পলিটিক্যাল অথরিটি আছে, মোরাল অথরিটি আছে, যার ইথিক্যাল অথরিটি আছে, কেবলমাত্র তারা স্বাধীনতা সার্বভৌমত্ব জাতীয় স্বার্থ সম্পন্ন করে এই বিষয়গুলোকে তারা নিষ্পন্ন করতে পারে। আজকে বিএনপি যে আলোচনাটা তারা সূত্রপাত করলেন, এটা বিএনপির রাজনৈতিক অবস্থান তারা ব্যক্ত করেছেন। তো এটা নিয়ে নিশ্চয়ই আরো দেখবার প্রশ্ন আছে, ভাবার প্রশ্ন আছে। এই সমস্ত বিষয়ে বিপ্লবী ওয়ার্কার্স পার্টি সহ আমাদের গণতন্ত্র মঞ্চ নিশ্চয়ই কিছু কিছু জিনিস আলোচনা হয়েছে। ভবিষ্যতে নিশ্চয়ই এগুলো নিয়ে আমরা আরো আলোচনা করব এবং সামগ্রিকভাবে এই অঞ্চলে ডেভেলপমেন্ট পার্টনার সহ এই অঞ্চলে এশিয়া প্যাসিফিক অঞ্চলের দেশগুলির সাথে আমরা সমতা ন্যায্যতার ভিত্তিতে কিভাবে গণতান্ত্রিক সম্পর্কটা তৈরি করব ভবিষ্যতের জন্য হয়তো আজকের আলোচনাটা সে ব্যাপারে একটা পথ সূচনা করলো। আমি বিএনপিকে আজকের আলোচনা সভা উদ্বোধনের জন্য শুরু করবার জন্য একটা বড় আলোচনা উন্মোচন করবার জন্য শুভেচ্ছা, ধন্যবাদ এবং অভিনন্দন জানাই। আমার বক্তব্য এখানে।
Thank you, Mr. Saifullah. Now I would request Mr. Barrister Shazanamo, the bail author and Vice Chairman of BNP, and we give us time is very short.
Thank you, sir. I know this thing now. গত হলো জাতীয় স্বার্থে, in the interest of national sovereignty, there is no permanent enemy or foe. We stand in a situation, our geography is located in a situation, our topography, our climate, our religion. You know, we are in between China and India, rather sandwiched. The difficulty is, India had been our friends. If any Indian is here, I request through him to Indians that why Indian government is not giving face to Bangladesh, why to particular party? That is my number one question. Now China, how China could penetrate this country? You know, China and Russia, they're communist countries. They don't have fiscal accountability. They are more often interested in kickbacks, so that this present government to receive kickbacks and to divert this money to different countries going to China. We stand in location where President Dior is to say, Bangladesh, they bridge between the East and West. Our people are Indo-Aryans, Dravidians, Yemeni Muslims, and the admixture. To our east, Mongolians, Northeast Mongolians, those Euro race, black-nosed people, non-religious. India has a religion, we have a religion, but this communist country is not religion. We have to find out who ties better with us. We are religious people, morally obedient people, we love our country, we don't want to be part of hegemony of Islam power. Now where can we protect our sovereignty? Where? That is the only place a democracy can be. We are democrats. Only democratic country will understand the problems of Bangladesh. So, I thank Mr. Khosru, who had a long study and made a beautiful summary. The only democratic country who respects us equally should be our ally. Under the present circumstances, because Bangladesh has to survive. Now presently Bangladesh is occupied by a autocratic government. They are not democratic government. So only bigger, strong nation, big person, big democratic values person can only protect us. In that case, I have policy, Peter Haske Dhanyabad জানিয়েছি. I fully agree with my friend Mr. Khosru that if America really, you can make some negotiation everlasting, or the Western power, or the democratic power, I am with them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Now I request our sorry, I think it's time for closing this seminar because the time, namaz time is also almost over. So I'd like to thank everybody in this seminar who have attended this seminar, especially the distinguished delegates from the diplomats from the missions and our distinguished guests for attending this seminar. And I would like to also thank Mr. Abid Kushru and his team for presenting this paper. This very, very important at this critical time when Bangladesh people are facing the challenges of their rights, human rights violations, and the right to vote, their right to have their justice, a real justice. These things are really important for them at this critical time. আমি বাংলায় একটু বলবো যে আমাদের এই সময়ে যে এই ইন্দো-প্যাসিফিক স্ট্রাকচার যে আমরা যে স্ট্র্যাটেজি যে পেপারটা আমি খুশি সাহেব দলের পক্ষ থেকে প্রেজেন্ট করেছেন সেজন্য আমরা তাকে আন্তরিকভাবে ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি। সেই সঙ্গে আমাদের যারা আমাদের গেস্ট যারা এসেছেন, মেহমান অতিথি এসেছেন, তাদেরকে আমরা ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি। সবচেয়ে বড় জিনিস হচ্ছে যে আমাদের এই পেপারটার মধ্যে দিয়ে আমরা we have expressed our unequivocal commitment to uphold international norms, rules that found and quote the liberal order to safeguard democracy, human rights, and freedom. And frankly speaking, at this time, we must the threat to democracy and peace in the Indo-Pacific region is now a common challenge. Now, effectively operating this challenge will require the like-minded countries and forces to come together within a common framework and share an agenda. It's only with collective strength, wisdom, and durable partnership we will be able to rise on the occasion. With this conviction and courage, we commit ourselves to become a valuable and reliable strategic partner of democratic forces in the broader Indo-Pacific alliance structure. প্রিয় সুধীবৃন্দ, আমরা যে সময়টা এখন অতিক্রম করছি, এই সময়টা জাতির জন্য সবাই আপনারা আলোচনা করেছেন, সবচেয়ে একটা অতিক্রম করছি। আমি এই মুহূর্তে আমাদের বাংলাদেশের সবচেয়ে জনপ্রিয় নেত্রী দেশনেত্রী বেগম খালেদা জিয়া, যিনি সবচেয়ে বেশি গণতন্ত্রের পক্ষে তার সারাটা জীবন দিয়েছেন, তিনি অত্যন্ত অসুস্থ অবস্থায় এই সরকার যেটা কিছুদিন আগে বলা যায় সরকার বলা ঠিক হবে না, এই শাসক গোষ্ঠী চরম প্রতিহিংসার কারণে বিনা চিকিৎসায় আজকে মুমূর্ষ অবস্থায় চলেছে। আমাদের ভারপ্রাপ্ত চেয়ারম্যান তারেক রহমান সাহেব তাকে আজকে মিথ্যা মামলায় সাজা দিয়ে থেকে বিদেশে নির্বাসিত অবস্থায় করে রাখা। আমাদের প্রায় 700 তরুণ যুবক, তার মধ্যে 3 জন সদস্য ছিলেন, তাদেরকে গুম হয়ে আমাদের প্রায় 45 লক্ষ মানুষের বিরুদ্ধে মিথ্যা মামলা চলছে। আমাদের অনেককে নির্বাচনের পূর্বে now before the election they have been convicted so that they cannot participate in the elections. So the entire election process এই গভর্নমেন্ট যেটা তৈরি করেছে, এই একটা মাত্র কারণ লক্ষ্য সেটা হচ্ছে যে যেন এখানে বিরোধী কেউই আপনার এখানে নির্বাচনে না আসতে পারে, যোগ দিতে না পারে, এবং এমন একটা অবস্থান তৈরি করা যেখানে একমাত্র আওয়ামী লীগ তারাই আপনার আবার ক্ষমতায় চলে যাবে, এই শাসক গোষ্ঠী আবার ক্ষমতায় যাবে। আমরা সেই কারণে জানি যে আজকে আমরা সবাই এই দেশের সমস্ত রাজনৈতিক দলগুলো আমরা একসাথে হয়েছি এবং আমরা একটা দফার মধ্যে আমরা এসেছি, one point, and that is resignation of this regime and resignation, and we have to again tell you very firmly that we don't want that BNP should come back to power. We want a people's representative should come to power and through a neutral, really credible election. And that's why we have asked for a neutral, non-partisan government during the election time. That's the only thing we are asking for. And আমি মনে করি যে আমরা আজকে যেভাবে ঐক্যবদ্ধ হয়েছি, আমরা আমাদের আন্দোলনের মধ্য দিয়ে জনগণকে সঙ্গে নিয়ে আমরা আমাদের সেই দাবি অর্জনে সক্ষম হব। আমি আপনাদের সকলে আবারও আন্তরিক কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাতে চাই যে আপনারা অত্যন্ত স্বল্প সময়ের নোটিশে আপনারা উপস্থিত হয়েছেন এবং খুব অল্প সময়ের মধ্যেই এই আলোচনা, বিশেষ করে যারা আলোচনা অংশ নিয়েছেন তাদেরকে আমি আন্তরিক ধন্যবাদ এবং কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাই। একটি কথা বলে শেষ করতে চাই, বাট উই বিলিভ যে সবসময় বাংলাদেশের মানুষ তারা প্রমাণ করেছে যে জনতার ঐক্যবদ্ধ প্রয়াসের মধ্য দিয়ে, চেষ্টার মধ্য দিয়ে সবসময় শান্তিপূর্ণ আন্দোলন জয়ী হয়েছে এবং আমরা এবারও বিশ্বাস করি যে এবারও বাংলাদেশ শান্তিপূর্ণ আন্দোলনের মধ্য দিয়ে তাদের গণতন্ত্রকে পুনঃপ্রতিষ্ঠা করতে সক্ষম হবে। উই বিলিভ ফার্মলি দ্যাট থ্রু দ্য peaceful movement of the people of this country, several times in the past it has been shown that we have won, the people have won. And at the same time, we could establish and restore democracy. And this time also, we will be able to restore democracy and restore the rights of the people to vote and select their own representatives for the country, rule this country. Thank you very much.
Tea coffee served outside. Please have some tea.
Yes, sir.